to do, and we haven't gotten anything back from that. I spoke to our city council liaison back in March, and we even changed the day of the meeting, I think, to better accommodate that. And he didn't. I don't think he could make the March meeting. I don't remember. I spoke to him
No, he
by
hasn't made
phone.
one of them since his assignment.
It was same day I got my COVID shot. Because I went out to the car ahead of my wife and daughter and talked to him by cell phone. And so that was sometime in March, but I don't remember what his schedule was going to be. So I guess I need to reinvestigate that. Okay. All right. So we need to get the city to give us some, I guess, ground rules or guidance as to where we're going again. Any other thoughts? Are we still generally using aspects of Map Your Neighborhood, if not necessarily using all of it? Are we relying on their videos or?
We're not using, I mean, I wouldn't recommend using the videos. I mean, it was a great tool, but that program was very earthquake centered, which is still appropriate to incorporate in safety, especially if we're doing home consults and you notice, a bookshelf that's not, braced or anything like that. But in terms of responding to the preparedness needs in relation to recent events, one of the other things that the person that had reached out for the first one-on-one consult was that she also wanted to talk a little bit about wildfire safety, as well as preparation for the next utility disaster, shall we say. And so, I'm not turning anyone away. It's an opportunity to ask for questions of what they feel are concerned. And then her thought was to, take that knowledge and maybe when the time is right, have a community meeting, but then she'll be better prepared to share it. Rather than, our biggest barrier was finding a day when all these people could come together. They can be more spontaneous if there's someone in the neighborhood with some confidence about sharing all those little ahas that often come with either a consultation or a training or just personal experience from the last disaster. Oh, I'll never do that again, or I'll be sure to have this on hand. So that's.
Yeah, I still have my list of things I need to do to prepare. Whether or not I can get to them before the next storm, we'll see.
Yeah, so that is why I prefer that we more emphasize West Linn Ready as opposed to Map Your Neighborhood. It's one of those, because it's been around for 15 years, it's not going to go away, and we don't say that's not a good idea to have a more organized response group. But
it's still confusing.
Yeah.
Any other things in terms of disaster preparedness, since we're still nothing decided on the teen driving program at this point? There's no updates pending revisions to quarantine, and even with that, the earliest that there would be a class would be October, so we'd have to be gearing up into the start of the school year, and we're not even sure what's going on with that. So for the moment, I think the teen driver safety is just on hold pending changes on the quarantine stuff. that leaves us focusing on disaster preparedness. Any other ideas or thoughts?
One other.
Was that you, Chris?
Yeah. Sorry about
Okay.
my
No, that's okay.
lighting here. The other thing that we had
Everybody's a blur to me right now because I don't have a set of glasses that works on a screen and my notes. So I'm a compromise, and I'd much rather be able to read my notes than see clearly who I'm talking to.
Well, you know, as I've kind of looked at what a logical, newer public safety focus might be, I was looking at it also in terms of sort of seasonal. And in addition to fire safety, there was a lot of emphasis where I lived before in Anchorage, Alaska, about seasonally about water safety. And so I was kind of curious, Stefan, you know, to what degree the TVFNR does a lot of response alongside parks, you know, kids getting into trouble because we don't have an active lifeguard program. But now the hot weather is coming on. People are will be coming over to the parks to warm up. And I just don't know. It was a problem in Alaska. I don't know if that's the same here. So that's a question for Stefan.
Yeah, we actually, so our water rescue team that does respond to emergencies along the Willamette Waterway are actually located in downtown West Linn. And just for reference, they're actually a part of a consortium that responds with including the sheriff's office and Clackamas Fire, Gresham, Lake Oswego. So it's actually this large group that works on this. So they, along with our public safety group, does education on those topics. On TVFNR.com, we have things around water safety, both as a swimmer, boater, or even at-home pool safety. Yeah, those resources are available. And I'd be happy to put them in the chat for you to check out.
So possibly we have a role to play in promotion of those resources, do you think?
We always welcome the help of a community and getting the message out because we know we might not be reaching everybody. So absolutely.
And one other thing they had in up north, and I think I mentioned it before, is there was a group that actually raised some funds and got some child life preservers hung at a number of the waterside parks. And it was a program called Kids Don't Float, where they encourage people to use them. You know, I don't know if that would, I don't know how many, if only there had been type situations have arisen around here or not. I just don't know what the statistics are. So whether it would justify the effort to raise.
Do we have much in response along the Willamette, Steph?
Yeah, I have to look at the more recent calls, but I mean, every summer we have spots that we're regularly responding to due to high activity and water use, especially this time of year where there's a lot of calls in which people presume that the water is a different temperature than the weather. So actually, for instance, coming up with some potential 90-degree weather, those are the weekends and times that we start to perk up as cold water and people thinking it's much warmer and being shocked and having issues and needing rescue happens a lot. In regards to the kiosk, actually, it's interesting you bring that up. At Hag Lake, we actually partnered with some community members that wanted to do lifeguard stations up there. There's actually a family that was connected to TVFNR a certain way and unfortunately lost 2 kids there. Then also Rogers Landing in Newburgh. Again, we supported some community members in putting together PFD stations or life jacket stations up there, in which it was free to use. So there's precedent for those being done, and the key being we want to work with the Parks Department, as it would be in West Linn. I don't know if there's any county parks that would be applicable, to see if that's something they'd be interested in. If also the community is interested in supporting that, to collect PFDs and make those available for families that might not be able to afford them otherwise, and can, you know, give them to their kids as they're going out for the day. And remarkably, I'll tell you, they don't walk away too much. Probably, you know, maybe have 25% that just don't make it back to the stand, but I'm always impressed by how those are usually pretty well taken care of.
Yeah, yeah. That was our experience
Okay.
too.
Michael, how about you? Got anything to throw into the mix?
Just digesting.
Okay. Tracy?
That kiosk is very interesting. When you were talking about what's the upkeep like for the vests? Are the families are the families being responsible for the upkeep of the vests, and then making sure that I'm not a swimmer, so I don't know what's on vests, but making sure that all the strings and whatever that the vests are, you know, usable. Yeah.
Yeah, they I'm trying to remember the name of the group. There's a safety consortium that worked on collecting the life or the PFDs or life vests, and they would check them for, you know, viability, making sure that they were water worthy, if you will. And then, you know, there is a usually use at your own risk, full disclosure kind of on the kiosk for awareness. And then also the final component is working with that staff, right, that manages that park day to day. Because, you know, for instance, here, Ken Warner is the head of the parks here. And so he'd be a great one to chat with to see if it's something they've explored in the past, if it's something they'd be interested in, if the community was you know, so interested. And I'd be happy to get you some more pictures and information as the ones they did at Hag Lake. And for instance, down at Rogers Landing, we offer, and we go down with the hose and spray it down every season, because if you're not aware, Rogers Landing floods. So often it's submerged, but it is done pretty well and holding up. So.
Okay. It really, there's nothing else on the agenda at this point. Any ideas of any new ideas we want to try and be toying with, or where we want to progress from what we've got so far? Obviously, we're going to need to touch base with the city council on our, for lack of a better term, mission, purpose statement, whatever. We need to, from there, reach out to the city's current community outreach resource to see what we can do in terms of tying some of these things together. Any other areas of concern or issue that we need to at least put on the radar screen for future consideration or discussion?
I have one. Um, I've been really thinking about, I'm not sure, you guys probably did hear about, there was an accident, a fatal accident. And I think it was down here off of Willamette, where a young lady who was well known in our community passed. And for some reason, I think it was either on Elliott in Willamette. I'm not exactly sure where it was, but I feel as if I continue to hear, and I'm right here on right across from Mary S. Young. And so to hear the fire trucks and the police going by, and just the thought of, there being significant crashes. It seems like since I've been here, there has been such an uptick in traffic. And I'm not exactly sure if it's traffic from 205 and they're just driving through so they can bypass 205. But there's such a huge uptick in traffic that I'm wondering if there is, I don't know what we can do about making sure that folks are safe. When I'm driving up and down Willamette down here, you can see folks veering off to the side to try to miss the potholes, and they're veering off to the side, and there's usually someone in the bike lane and they barely miss that person. That I'm seeing those things happen on a regular basis. Is that something we can figure out or do something about or connect with someone about, or I don't know.
Well, I know in times past we've had concerns brought to us about the width of streets with cars parked on it for access for emergency vehicles. You haven't not encountered any problems with that with TVFNR, have you, Stefan?
I mean, at least recently, we've somewhat seen the opposite because traffic diminished during the pandemic. It has started to pick up again, and our calls are starting to look to what they did in the past. I would encourage talking to police, our representative, as they're going to have a really good feel for some of that, and they work on it quite often. And then, as Tom was alluding to, there is a traffic safety committee that meets regularly, similar to our group, and then works with and advises the city when it comes to looking at, whether it's traffic safety measures or questions that have come up in the past on road design. So, if you want, I can. I'm sorry, I'm just kind of spamming the chat here, but I quickly pulled up their information and can put
I
that
just
in.
sent the link also in the email to everybody.
Perfect. Okay.
Okay.
And Tracy, that accident was actually at Chestnut and Willamette Falls Drive.
Hmm.
Yeah, it was on Willamette Falls Drive, close to Chestnut.
Okay. Is there any update from TVFNR? I know Peter's in Hawaii for another week or so we don't have any direct feedback on the PD, but anything to share on TVFNR?
Yeah, hey, I'll just keep rolling here with updates.
Just keep in mind that the Tournament of Champions on Jeopardy is coming up in about 20 minutes, so
I will be as expedient as possible. So yeah, the first thing I wanted to share, we've been trying to, actually it's great that Chris brought that up because one of our goals has been to still have that safety outreach, not being in the schools as we have in the past, or doing some of the safety fairs and things that we've done in the past, or going to community events. It's frustrating because we know that there's people that could really use that. So we started a safety first newsletter, and we just did the 3rd edition of that. And so I'll put a link to that in the chat, but we tried to make that kind of image driven and dynamic to interest people. And we've gotten some really good traffic on it. So that's been good to see. As I was asked before, water safety is a topic that we are trying to get out right now. So we've been doing some awareness and interviews to that effect, just to talk about the things that I had mentioned before. The other thing is that we and much of the state of Oregon have adopted the Ready, Set, Go wildfire program. And so what that means and is ready is about defensible space. It's about having your home well prepared, especially for those that live in that what they call the rural urban interface. Or the wildland urban interface. And so those are those homes and communities that are almost kind of in rural forested areas where we know they are especially susceptible to wildfire. But just preparing your home in that way can make it tremendously more protected and make firefighters' jobs easier when it comes to defending it. Even if it's just a small brush fire, is what we usually see in West Linn. We usually, aren't going to see wildfires, but even with small fires, those can make a huge difference. And then, so that's the ready and the set. That's having a plan and making sure that you're, communicating with your family, much as we would say, have a fire escape plan, right? How do you get out of your home if your smoke detector goes off and you need to evacuate quickly? What's your plan if you, did have to be evacuated? And making sure you have your emergency kit. And these things obviously are applicable outside of wildfire and parlay nicely with the Map Your Neighborhood program. And then the last one is go, and that's essentially being aware of what the different evacuation levels are. We have a lot of people that didn't understand, what level 1, level 2, and level 3 were. So they're trying to use this opportunity across the state to create more awareness about that. So we are doing some virtual presentations actually on this topic. So I'll put those in the chat as well. And so if anybody's interested, you're welcome to join in on those. The next one is going to be June 17th, and then at 7 p.m. So great thing to tune into and learn a little bit more. But again, just trying in a virtual environment to share safety with our communities, even if it's not face to face as we love doing.
Okay. Any last minute thoughts, ideas, community feedback, good of the order? I'm sneaking up a calendar to see about next month's dates. That'd be the 23rd. 23rd there are 5 Wednesdays in May, so 23rd would be the 4th Wednesday. That's the Wednesday after Father's Day. Anybody have a hang up or problem with that, or shall we approve that as our next meeting date?
Sounds good.
Okay. I will try and get a hold of Rory, our city council person. I've got an email on him somewhere. And see where we are with the city council and see where he can get some stimulus on some of this other activity that we're trying to interface with. I don't have anything else. Does anybody else want to have any last comment? And if not, can I entertain a motion to adjourn?
One other thing,
Yes.
Tom, I'm just, for the other members, as I get some more of these Westland Ready activities developed, I'll send individually to you in the interim if I can for some feedback. And just to let you know, I'm gonna try to
Okay.
use some of this time at home and during the vigil.
Tony, you sent us out
get
a
that done.
list of members and phone numbers. Do we have an email list as well?
Yeah, I can send the email. I thought the email was on it, but I can
No.
send that out.
Yeah, it's got names, phone numbers, but email might be nice if we're trying to distribute some of this info as to when we might have some contacts and where they may want to dovetail with something that's already established.
Well, the one email address, if you send it the Public Safety Advisory Board, it goes to the distribution group. I can send that out too.
It doesn't work off of my email. About half of the email addresses that I send that out to, I get kicked back from something within the city. The IT people have an idea of what it is, but trying to fix it's another problem. But
It's
a
probably your
problem.
dial-up, your AOL dial-up.
I don't use dial-up. I've been on.
I'm just giving you a bad time.
No, I've had my email address for 25 years. It's been embedded out there, so I'm not abandoning that. But yeah, there is a hiccup within the system with how it identifies AOL and my other options
Okay.
for it. I do have
I'll
email
send you an
addresses
email
I don't
list
use.
then tomorrow. I'll send the email list out to everybody.
Very good. Motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Okay. I saw Chris's hand. Is there a second? I see a second from Tracy. Any opposition? We'll go that route. Hearing none, since I muted everybody, we'll stand adjourned and regather in about a month. Thank you all for coming. I know it was a long commute.
I guess.